Katie Martinez stood near the edge of the reception hall, trying not to look nervous. The metallic bands on her shoulders felt heavier than usual, though she knew that was just in her mind. Around her, dozens of alien species mingled and talked, their voices creating a strange symphony of clicks, hums, and musical tones that her translator earpiece worked hard to convert into English. She was 19 years old, and this was her first major diplomatic event. 6 months ago, she had been a college student in Arizona. Now she wore the dark blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, complete with the silver bands that circled her shoulders and ankles. Most of the aliens she had met assumed the bands were jewelry or some kind of cultural decoration. She never corrected them. Ambassador Richard Cole appeared at her side, holding 2 glasses of a pale green liquid that was safe for human consumption. He handed one to Katie with a small smile. The ambassador was in his 50s, with gray hair and the calm demeanor of someone who had seen everything the galaxy had to offer. "How are you holding up?" he asked quietly. "I'm fine, sir," Katie replied, taking a careful sip of the drink. It tasted like mint and something she couldn't identify. "Just taking it all in." "Good. Remember, you're here to observe and learn. Don't worry about making conversation unless someone approaches you first." Katie nodded, but even as the ambassador moved away to greet another delegate, she found herself the subject of curious stares. A tall alien with purple skin and 3 eyes glided toward her. Katie recognized the species from her training, an Alterian named Vexthor, one of the council representatives. "You are the young human intern, yes?" Vexthor's voice came out as a pleasant chime, translated smoothly by her earpiece. "Yes, sir. Katie Martinez." She extended her hand carefully, remembering to keep her grip as light as possible. The Alterian's hand felt like cool silk in hers. "Fascinating. You seem so young, so delicate. I am told humans reach physical maturity quite early compared to most species." Vexthor tilted his head, studying her with what might have been academic interest. "On my world, our youth remain fragile for many cycles. They require protection and guidance well into what you would consider adulthood." Katie smiled politely. "Humans mature at different rates, but yes, we're considered adults at 18 years old in most of our cultures." Another alien joined them. This one reptilian with dark green scales and yellow eyes. Katie's mental database identified him as a Sauran, a species known for their warrior culture. His name badge read, Commander Xylith of the Kryn Collective. "A human child serving in diplomatic roles," Xylith said, his translator giving his voice a rough, gravelly quality. "Your species continues to surprise us. Though I must say, I expected human representatives to be more imposing. The reports we receive make your people sound quite formidable." Katie felt her cheeks warm slightly, but she kept her expression neutral. "I'm just an intern, Commander. There are many humans far more qualified than me at this gathering." "Indeed," Xylith continued, his eyes scanning the room until they landed on Ambassador Cole. "But even your senior diplomats seem unremarkable in physical presence. No offense intended, of course. The Kryn have long wondered if the stories about human capabilities are exaggerated for effect." Vexthor made a sound like wind chimes. "Now, Xylith, there is no need to be provocative. We are here for peaceful discourse." "I speak only truth," the Kryn commander replied. "My people are warriors. We recognize strength when we see it. And while I respect human achievements in technology and diplomacy, I see no evidence of the physical prowess your military reports suggest." Katie's fingers tightened slightly on her glass. She took a slow breath, feeling the bands on her shoulders press against her uniform. Ambassador Cole had warned her about this. Some species, particularly the warrior cultures, viewed humanity's rapid rise in galactic politics with suspicion. They needed to test, to push, to understand if humans were truly worthy of respect. The Kryn are renowned fighters, Katie said carefully. Your people have won many battles through strength and skill. Earth respects that tradition. Respect is earned, young one, not given freely. Xylith stepped closer, and Katie had to resist the urge to step back. Your world claims to be harsh, to produce hardy people, but I see no evidence. You look as fragile as the Alterians, as weak as the Pelthri traders who buy protection from real warriors. Several other delegates had begun to notice the conversation. Katie saw Ambassador Cole start to move toward them, his expression concerned, but something in her chest tightened with frustration. For 6 months, she had been careful, gentle, restrained. She had learned to move slowly, to touch lightly, to treat everything and everyone around her as if they were made of glass, because to her, they were. "Commander," Katie said, her voice steady, "I appreciate your perspective, but perhaps you're making judgments based on incomplete information." "Oh? And what information am I missing, intern?" Katie glanced at Ambassador Cole, who had reached the edge of their small group. He gave her a tiny nod, just the slightest dip of his chin. Permission. "These bands I'm wearing," Katie said, touching the metal ring on her right shoulder. "Do you know what they're for?" Xylith's eyes narrowed. "Decoration, cultural significance. Many species wear such adornments." "No, sir. They're gravity compensators. They're designed to make me weaker, not stronger." The statement hung in the air for a moment. Vexathor's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. "Weaker? Why would you intentionally handicap yourself?" Katie looked around the reception hall. The station's artificial gravity was set at 0.4 G, the standard for most galactic facilities. For her, it felt like walking on the moon. Every step wanted to launch her into the air. Every movement had to be calculated and controlled. "Because without them," Katie said quietly, "I'm dangerous to everyone here." Xylith made a sound that her translator interpreted as laughter. "Dangerous? You? A human girl who weighs perhaps 50 kilograms? 68 kilograms, Commander. At least that's what I weigh on this station. On Earth, under Earth's gravity, I weigh 170 kilograms. The Kryn commander's laughter died. "That's impossible. You would need to be far more dense. Your bones would need to be absurdly thick." "Yes, sir, they are." Ambassador Cole cleared his throat. "Katie, perhaps we should—" "With respect, Ambassador, I think a demonstration might be valuable." Katie looked at the growing crowd of delegates. If the Council is going to make decisions about Earth's membership, they should understand what they're really dealing with. Not propaganda, not rumors. The truth. Xylith's eyes gleamed with interest. "A demonstration. What exactly are you proposing, intern?" Katie took a deep breath. She thought about home, about the weight of Earth's sky pressing down on her every moment of her life, about the training she had endured since childhood to function in low-gravity environments without hurting people, about the responsibility that came with being strong. "I'm proposing," she said carefully, "that I show you what a human really is when we're not." The word spread through Zenith Prime Station faster than Katie expected. Within 10 minutes, the small gathering around her had transformed into a crowd of nearly 200 delegates from dozens of different species. The reception hall had been cleared of furniture, creating a large open space with Katie standing at its center. Captain Jake Sullivan, head of human security for the delegation, stood nearby with his arms crossed. He wore the same gravity bands as Katie, along with the dark green uniform of Earth's security forces. His expression was carefully neutral, but Katie caught the slight nod of approval he gave her. Ambassador Cole raised his hands, calling for attention. The various clicks, whistles, and hums of alien conversation gradually faded to silence. "Honored delegates," the ambassador began, his voice carrying across the hall, "what you are about to witness is not a threat or an act of aggression. It is simply the truth about human physiology and why we take certain precautions when serving off-world. I ask that everyone maintain a safe distance of at least 10 meters from intern Martinez." A ripple of movement went through the crowd as delegates stepped back. Some looked intrigued, others skeptical. Commander Xylith remained near the front, his yellow eyes fixed on Katie with intense interest. Dr. Helen Morris, the human xenobiologist, stepped forward with a data pad. She was a short woman with dark skin and silver hair pulled back in a tight bun. She addressed the crowd with the calm authority of someone used to explaining complex concepts. "For those unfamiliar with Earth's environmental conditions," Dr. Morris said, "our homeworld operates at a gravitational force of approximately 1.0 g, which is 2.5 times the standard gravity setting you experience on this station. This has profound effects on human development." A small alien with blue fur raised one of its 6 arms. "But many worlds have high gravity. The Torvins evolved under 1.2 g. They are strong, but not remarkably so." "The difference," Dr. Morris explained, "is that Earth also supported the evolution of complex predators and competitive ecosystems. Humans didn't just adapt to high gravity. We adapted to survive in an environment where everything was trying to kill us, all while carrying 2.5 times the weight you're experiencing right now." Katie stood quietly, her fingers resting on the release mechanism of her shoulder band. She could feel her heart beating faster. Not from fear, but from anticipation. For 6 months, she had moved like a ghost among these people, carefully controlling every gesture, every step, every touch, always holding back, always pretending to be weaker than she was. "The bands intern Martinez wears," Dr. Morris continued, "are gravity compensators. They create a localized field that increases the gravitational pull on her body to approximately 0.9 g. This keeps her movements controlled and safe for those around her." "Safe?" Vexthor called out, his 3 eyes blinking rapidly. "You make it sound as if she is a weapon." "Not a weapon," Ambassador Cole said gently. "But imagine if your entire species was raised in an environment where every object weighed 2.5 times more than it does here. Your muscles would develop differently. Your bones would be denser. Your reflexes would be adapted to that constant resistance." Katie spoke up, her voice clear in the silent hall. "Every human child learns to control their strength from the moment they can walk. We learn not to hug our pets too hard, not to grab our friends too roughly. When we come off-world, we undergo years of training to relearn how to move in lower gravity." She reached up and touched the smooth metal of the band on her right shoulder. "These bands help us. They make us slow again, weak again. They let us shake your hands without breaking your fingers. They let us walk without cracking your floors." Commander Xylith's scales rippled with what might have been amusement. "You expect us to believe that removing those bands will make you dangerous? You are one young female. Even if you have trained rigorously, there are limits to biology." Katie smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. "You're right, Commander. There are limits to biology. But you're thinking about this wrong. You're imagining that removing these bands will make me stronger. That's not what happens." She paused, looking around at the assembled delegates. "Removing these bands doesn't make me stronger. It reveals how strong I already am, how strong every human already is. We just hide it so we don't scare you." Captain Sullivan spoke for the first time. "Final safety check. Is everyone at least 10 meters back?" Several delegates shuffled backward nervously. The Kryn commander stood his ground, but Katie noticed his clawed hand had moved closer to the ceremonial weapon at his belt. "Katie," Ambassador Cole said quietly, "slowly, and stay in control." "Yes, sir." Katie took a deep breath and pressed the release on her right shoulder band. There was a soft click, and the metal ring separated and fell into her waiting hand. The change was immediate. The first thing she felt was lightness. Beautiful, dangerous lightness. With the band's gravitational field gone, her right side suddenly weighed almost nothing. She carefully removed the left shoulder band, then knelt down to remove the ankle bands as well. Each one she set gently on the floor in front of her. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The delegates exchanged confused glances. Then Katie stood up. The floor beneath her feet cracked. It wasn't a loud sound, just a small snap of reinforced composite material that hadn't been designed for the pressure her Earth-conditioned muscles could now exert in 0.4 G. Katie immediately froze, spreading her weight more carefully. "Sorry," she said, looking down at the small cracks radiating from where she stood. "That's the first challenge, remembering that every surface is now fragile." She took a careful step forward. Even moving slowly, her foot came down with enough force to create a visible impact mark. Several delegates near the front stumbled backward in alarm. Katie raised her right hand and slowly closed it into a fist. The motion was controlled, deliberate, but the air displacement from her hand moving created a small rush of wind that rustled clothing and antennae on nearby aliens. She opened her hand again, fingers spread. "This is what I am without the compensators," she said. "Every movement is amplified. Every action requires conscious control. If I forget myself for even a second and move naturally, I could hurt someone." Vexthor's voice trembled slightly. "How much stronger are you now?" "In this gravity? About 2.5 times stronger than I appear. But it's not just strength. It's bone density, muscle fiber composition, reflex speed, all of it." She looked at Commander Xylith. "You wanted to see if humans are truly formidable. Watch." Katie bent her knees slightly and jumped. Not a full-power jump, not anything close to what she was capable of. Just a simple standing jump like a child might do on a playground. She rose 8 meters into the air. The gasps and cries of alarm from the crowd were instantaneous. Katie's head nearly touched the ceiling of the conference hall before gravity, weak as it was, began to pull her back down. She had time to tuck her legs, to prepare for landing, to calculate exactly where and how her feet would strike the floor. The impact when she landed sent a shockwave through the entire section of the station. Delegates fell to the ground or grabbed onto whatever was nearby for support. Alarm klaxons began to wail as the station's structural integrity sensors detected the stress. The floor beneath Katie's feet didn't just crack this time. It buckled inward, creating a small crater roughly 1 meter wide. Katie stood perfectly still in the center of the damage, breathing carefully. She hadn't even jumped hard. That was maybe 20% of what she could do if she really tried. The hall was absolute chaos. Aliens shouting in dozens of languages, security personnel rushing in, sensors screaming warnings. Captain Sullivan held up his hands, calling for calm in a voice trained to carry over battlefield noise. Ambassador Cole made his way to Katie, stepping carefully around the damaged flooring. "Are you all right?" "Yes, sir. Sorry about the floor." The ambassador actually smiled. "I think the diplomatic corps can cover the repairs. Look around, Katie. Look at their faces." She did. The skepticism was gone. The dismissive amusement had vanished. In their place was something Katie had never seen directed at her before. Not curiosity. Not academic interest. Fear. Commander Xylith stood frozen. His earlier confidence shattered. His eyes were wide, his stance that of a predator confronted by something larger and more dangerous than itself. Vexthor had backed up nearly 20 meters, his 3 eyes fixed on Katie like she was a natural disaster given form. Dr. Morris stepped forward with her data pad. Her voice was steady, professional, cutting through the noise. "What you just witnessed was a casual demonstration from a 19-year-old intern with basic physical training. Now I want you to imagine a human soldier. Someone who has trained their entire life for combat. Someone wearing powered armor designed to enhance these natural capabilities even further." The hall fell silent again. "And I want you to imagine," Dr. Morris continued. That humanity fields millions of such soldiers, that our military personnel train in environments even harsher than Earth's normal gravity, that we have weapons designed specifically to be used by people with our strength, our reflexes, our resilience. Katie carefully picked up her gravity bands and began reattaching them. With each one that clicked into place, she felt the familiar weight returning, the constant pull that made every movement require effort. It felt like coming home. Once all 4 bands were secure, she looked at Commander Xylith. This is why we wear the emergency session convened 3 hours after Katie's demonstration. The council chamber was larger than the reception hall, designed in a circular pattern with seats rising in tiers around a central speaking floor. Representatives from 43 different species filled the space, and every single one of them was staring at the human delegation. Katie sat in the observation section with Captain Sullivan, watching as Ambassador Cole took his place on the speaking floor. Dr. Helen Morris stood beside him, along with 2 other humans Katie hadn't met before. One was a stern-looking woman in a military uniform, decorated with more medals than Katie could count. The other was a younger man in civilian clothes carrying several data storage devices. The council speaker, an ancient being called a Nexari whose species lived for centuries, raised one crystalline appendage for silence. When the speaker's translator activated, the voice that emerged sounded like distant bells. This emergency session has been called to address questions regarding human physiology and the environmental conditions of Earth. Ambassador Cole, you may proceed. Cole bowed respectfully. Thank you, honored speaker. With your permission, I'd like to introduce General Marcus Webb, Commander of Earth's Off-World Defense Forces, and Dr. Lynn Peterson, Director of our Gravity Research Institute. The general stepped forward first. She was tall, with gray streaks in her dark hair, and the kind of posture that came from decades of military discipline. Even with her gravity bands clearly visible, she moved with controlled precision that made several delegates shift nervously in their seats. Members of the Council, General Webb began, I'm here to provide context that Earth's government believes you have a right to know before making decisions about our membership application. What Intern Martinez demonstrated earlier is not unusual for humans. It's normal. Every human civilian has similar capabilities. A delegate from the aquatic peltry species spoke up, their voice bubbling through their translator. But surely your military personnel are different? Enhanced in some way? Yes, the general said bluntly. They're much more dangerous. But not because of enhancements, because of training. A human marine undergoes conditioning in environments that simulate up to 3G of gravitational force. They learn to fight, think, and survive while carrying 3 times their body weight. When such a soldier operates in 0.4 G, like we have on this station, they can do things that would seem impossible to most species. The general pulled up a holographic display. It showed a human soldier in powered armor performing a training exercise. The soldier jumped over a 15-meter wall, landed with enough force to crack the ground, then sprinted at speeds that blurred the video footage. This is Corporal Danny Price, General Webb said. 22 years old, standard infantry. No genetic modifications, no cybernetic enhancements, just a young man from Texas who grew up in Earth's gravity and trained in our military system. The chamber erupted in noise. Delegates shouted questions, demands for more information, accusations of exaggeration. The Nexari speaker called for order 3 times before the chaos subsided. Commander Xylith stood, his scales darker than they had been earlier. General Webb, the Kryn Collective has fought wars for 10,000 years. We have never encountered soldiers with such capabilities. If humans have this kind of power, why are we only learning about it now? Because we've been trying very hard not to scare you, the general replied simply. Earth's first contact with galactic civilization happened only 12 years ago. We knew immediately that we were different. Stronger, yes, but also alone. We wanted friends, not enemies. She paused, looking around the chamber. So we developed the gravity compensation system. We trained our people in restraint. We made ourselves appear weaker than we are because we thought it would help you accept us. Maybe that was a mistake. Dr. Lynn Peterson stepped forward now, and the holographic display changed to show a rotating image of Earth. Katie felt a pang of homesickness seeing her world from space, the blue oceans and white clouds so beautiful and familiar. "Let me explain why humans are the way we are," Dr. Peterson said. His voice was gentler than the general's, more academic. "Earth operates at 1.0 g, which as mentioned is 2.5 times standard galactic gravity. But that's just the beginning." The hologram zoomed in on Earth's surface, highlighting different regions. "Our planet has active tectonic plates that cause earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. We have extreme weather systems including hurricanes with winds exceeding 300 kilometers per hour. Our atmospheric oxygen concentration is 21%, which is toxic to many species here." A new image appeared showing Earth's temperature ranges. "Our planet experiences temperature variations from -89 degrees Celsius to +70 degrees Celsius. Humans have built civilizations in both extremes." Vex Thor's musical voice chimed in. "But surely these are anomalies, extreme conditions that humans avoid." "No," Dr. Peterson said. "These are normal conditions on Earth. Our species evolved to handle all of it. We had to. Earth is beautiful, but it's also one of the most hostile environments for complex life that we've discovered in the galaxy." The hologram shifted again, this time showing Earth's ecosystem. Predators hunting prey, animals fighting for territory, the raw, brutal competition for survival that defined terrestrial life. "On Earth, danger is everywhere," the doctor continued. "We have predators that can kill a human in seconds. We have diseases that sweep through populations. We have natural disasters that can destroy entire cities. Human evolution was shaped by constant threat, constant challenge, constant pressure to be stronger, faster, smarter, just to survive another day." Katie watched the delegates absorbing this information. Some looked fascinated, others horrified. The Pelthry representative seemed particularly disturbed, their aquatic features rippling with distress. "This seems needlessly harsh," another delegate said. "Why would any species remain on such a world? Why not leave, find somewhere safer?" Ambassador Cole spoke up. "Because it's our home. Because despite all the dangers, all the challenges, Earth is also incredibly beautiful. It made us who we are. We don't hate our planet's harshness. We're grateful for it. It gave us strength we didn't know we'd need." General Webb pulled up another display, this one showing human bone structure compared to several other species. "Notice the density here. Human bones are approximately 60% denser than the galactic average. This is necessary to support our weight and withstand the impact forces we experience in high gravity." She zoomed in on muscle tissue. "Our muscle fiber composition is also unique. We have a much higher proportion of fast-twitch muscles designed for explosive power. This is why intern Martinez could jump 8 meters from a standing position." "What about pain tolerance?" Commander Xylith asked. "The Kryn pride ourselves on our ability to fight through injury." The general's expression became grim. "Human pain tolerance is off your charts, Commander. We had to evolve that way. An injury that would incapacitate most species might slow a human down, but they can keep functioning. I've seen soldiers with broken bones continue fighting. I've seen people walk on torn ligaments to reach safety." She pulled up medical data that made several delegates look away. "Our bodies have redundant systems. If one kidney fails, we have another. Our liver can regenerate. We can lose significant blood volume and survive. We can function with reduced oxygen. Evolution built us to take damage and keep going." The chamber fell silent. Katie could feel the weight of that silence, the realization settling over the assembled species. Humans weren't just strong, they were resilient in ways that made them fundamentally different from nearly every other known species. Dr. Peterson spoke again. his tone sympathetic. "I know this is difficult to hear, but please understand, we're not trying to intimidate you. We're trying to be honest. Earth's government debated for years whether to reveal this information. We were afraid you would see us as monsters. But after today's demonstration," Ambassador Cole added, "we realized that hiding the truth was worse than sharing it. You deserve to know what humans are really like. And we need you to understand that our strength isn't something we want to use against you." A small delegate from a species Katie didn't recognize stood up. "If humans are this powerful, why do you need the Galactic Council? You could simply take what you want." Katie found herself standing before she realized what she was doing. Captain Sullivan put a hand on her arm, but she gently shook it off and walked down to the speaking floor. Ambassador Cole looked surprised but stepped aside to let her speak. "Because taking things by force is easy," Katie said, her voice carrying through the chamber despite her nervousness. "Any bully can do that. But building something together, creating something that lasts, making real friends and allies, that's hard. That requires trust and cooperation and respect." She looked around at all the different species watching her. "I'm 19 years old. I've spent most of my life learning how to be gentle in a harsh world, learning how to control strength I didn't ask for. And you want to know why? Because my parents taught me that being strong means nothing if you use that strength to hurt others." Her voice grew stronger. "Earth wants to join the Galactic Council because we're tired of being alone. Yes, we're strong. Yes, we come from a world that would kill most of you in minutes. But that's exactly why we value what you've built here. Peace, cooperation, different species working together instead of tearing each other apart." She turned to Commander Xylith. "You asked earlier if humans are truly formidable. The answer is yes. But being formidable isn't the same as being honorable. We want to prove that we can be both." Katie walked back to her seat, her heart pounding. She had probably just violated a dozen diplomatic protocols by speaking without permission. But Ambassador Cole was smiling, and General Webb gave her an approving nod. The Nexari speaker's bell-like voice filled the chamber. "The Council will recess for deliberation. We will reconvene in 6 hours to discuss Earth's membership application in light of this new information." As delegates began to file out, Katie saw them talking in small groups, casting glances back at the human delegation. Some looked afraid, others looked thoughtful. A few, she was surprised to see, looked almost how Katie found herself on the observation deck, staring out at the massive gas giant that Zenith Prime Station orbited. The view was stunning. Swirls of orange and purple across a planet so large that Earth could fit inside it 100 times over. But right now, she barely saw it. Her mind kept replaying the looks on the delegates' faces when she had spoken. "Beautiful, isn't it?" She turned to find Vexthor standing a respectful distance away. The Alterian's purple skin seemed to shimmer in the light from the gas giant. His 3 eyes blinked in that unsettling sequence that Katie had learned meant he was uncertain. "Yes," Katie said, "though I have to admit, I prefer the view of Earth from orbit." "I imagine you do." Vexthor moved closer, slowly, like someone approaching a wild animal. "May I join you?" "Of course," Katie gestured to the viewing area. "I don't bite." The attempt at humor fell flat. Vexthor's translator rendered his nervous laugh as wind chimes in a storm. "Forgive me. I am still processing what I witnessed earlier. I have been a council representative for 16 cycles. I thought I had seen everything the galaxy had to offer." "And now you've seen a human girl jump really high," Katie said softly. "I'm sorry if I scared you." "Scared?" Vexthor tilted his head. "Yes, I was scared. I am still scared, if I am being honest. But I am also fascinated. Tell me, Katie Martinez, what is it like to grow up on Earth?" Katie considered the question carefully. It's hard to explain to someone who hasn't experienced it. Imagine that every single day of your life, you wake up and immediately feel like someone has placed a heavy weight on your chest. Walking feels like trudging through deep water. Running requires effort that leaves you exhausted. Even just standing still is work. She touched the gravity band on her shoulder. When I first came off-world and they fitted me with these compensators, I cried. Not because they hurt, but because for the first time in my life I felt light. I could move without constant resistance. It was like being freed from chains I didn't know I was wearing. Vex Thor's eyes widened. But then why go back? Why not simply live off-world where the gravity is easier? Because Earth is home. Because my family is there. Because despite the weight, despite the constant effort, there's something about Earth that makes all the struggle worth it. Katie smiled. The sky after a rainstorm, the smell of the ocean, the feel of grass under your feet. These things mean more when you've had to fight for the strength to experience them. The Alterian was quiet for a long moment. I think I am beginning to understand. You humans don't see your strength as a gift. You see it as a necessary adaptation to a world that demands it. Exactly. We're not strong because we want to be. We're strong because we had to be. Footsteps approached, and Katie turned to see Commander Xylith. The Kryn warrior looked different than he had in the council chamber. Less aggressive, more contemplative. His yellow eyes studied Katie with an intensity that would have been frightening if not for the obvious respect in his gaze. "Intern Martinez," he said, "I owe you an apology." Katie blinked in surprise. "Sir?" "I challenged you earlier. I questioned your people's strength, suggested that human capabilities were exaggerated propaganda. I was wrong." Xylith's scales rippled with what she had learned was a Kryn expression of humility. "I have been a warrior for 40 years. I have faced enemies across a dozen worlds, but I have never encountered anything like what you showed us today." "I wasn't trying to prove anything, Commander. I just wanted you to understand. And I do. Now." Xylith moved to the viewing window, standing beside Vex Thor. "The Kryn respect strength. It is central to our culture, our history, our identity. But we have always believed that true strength must be tempered with honor. A warrior who uses their power carelessly is no warrior at all." He turned to face Katie directly. "What impressed me most today was not your physical capabilities. It was your control. You could have hurt people. You could have caused serious damage. But you measured every movement, calculated every action. That is the mark of a true warrior." Katie felt her cheeks warm. "I just did what I was trained to do." "Precisely. And that training speaks volumes about your people." Xylith's tail swished behind him. "When the Kryn first encountered other species, we saw their weakness and sought to dominate them. It took centuries for us to learn that conquest is hollow. That true strength lies in choosing when not to fight." He gestured toward the gas giant. "Humans learned that lesson already. Despite your power, you came to us seeking friendship, not submission. You hid your strength to make us comfortable. That is wisdom beyond your years as a species." Vex Thor's chiming voice added, "I must admit, Commander, I had similar thoughts. The Altarians have always been a peaceful people, perhaps because we lack the physical power to be otherwise. We have survived through diplomacy, through trade, through being useful to stronger species." The Altarian's three eyes focused on Katie. "But you humans are strong enough to take what you want, yet you choose to negotiate instead. That is genuinely remarkable." Across the observation deck, Katie saw other small groups forming. Delegates who had been terrified a few hours ago were now engaged in intense conversations with the human representatives. She spotted Dr. Morris explaining something to a group of insectoid beings, their antennae waving with apparent excitement. General Webb stood with several military officers from other species, and while the conversation looked serious, it didn't seem hostile. Captain Sullivan approached with two other humans Katie recognized from the delegation. One was a young man named Peter Grant, a cultural liaison. The other was an older woman, Dr. Amy Chen, a medical specialist. "Mind if we join you?" Sullivan asked. "Please," Vexthor said. "I have many questions if you don't mind answering them." Dr. Chen smiled warmly. "That's why we're here." "What would you like to know?" "This gravity compensation technology," Vexthor began. "How widely is it used among your people?" "Every human who serves off-world wears compensators," Peter explained. "It's not optional. Earth's government made it mandatory after some unfortunate incidents during first contact." "Incidents?" Commander Xylith leaned forward with interest. Sullivan grimaced. "In the early days, we didn't fully understand how different we were. A human diplomat tried to give a friendly handshake to a Pelthri representative and broke 3 of their manipulator appendages. Another time, a human child at a cultural exchange hugged an Alterian child and cracked 2 of their ribs." Vexthor made a sound like shattering glass. "The child was trying to show affection?" "Yes. Human children are taught to hug gently, but gentle for a human child is still potentially dangerous to species from lower gravity worlds." Dr. Chen pulled up a holographic display showing human children playing. "This is a typical playground on Earth. Notice how rough the play seems. Human children push, tackle, and wrestle with each other. It's how they learn to control their strength and understand their limits." The hologram showed a human child fall from a climbing structure, hit the ground hard, then get up and keep playing. Several of the aliens watching flinched. "That fall would have killed an Alterian child," Vexthor said quietly. "Yes," Dr. Chen agreed. "But for a human child, it's just a minor tumble. They might get a bruise, maybe a scrape, but they're designed to handle impacts like that. Earth's gravity means that falling is always a risk, so we evolved to be resilient to it." Commander Xylith watched the playing children with something like awe. "They're training themselves without even knowing it. Every game, every fall, every rough play is teaching them to be warriors." "Not warriors," Katie interjected. "Survivors. There's a difference." "Is there?" the Kryn commander challenged, but his tone was curious rather than aggressive. "Warriors choose to fight. Survivors fight because they have to. Earth didn't give us a choice. We adapted or died out like countless other species did on our world." Katie thought about her history lessons, about the mass extinctions Earth had experienced. "We're not special because we're strong. We're special because we're stubborn enough to refuse to quit." Peter laughed. "That might be the most human thing I've ever heard." "We succeed through sheer stubbornness." The group stood together, watching the gas giant slowly rotate. Katie felt something shift in the atmosphere. The fear was still there, she could sense it, but it was mixed with something else now. Curiosity, respect, even the beginnings of friendship. "Can I ask you something personal?" Vexthor said to Katie. "Of course." "Why did you volunteer for off-world service? You're young. You could have stayed on Earth, lived without the need for compensators, been among your own people." Katie was quiet for a moment, gathering her thoughts. "Because I wanted to matter. Earth is big, and there are billions of humans. It's easy to feel small there, even with all our strength. But out here in the galaxy, I can make a difference. I can help people understand us. Maybe prevent wars or build alliances that will last generations." She smiled. "And honestly, I wanted to see the stars up close. Earth is beautiful, but it's just one planet. The universe is so much bigger than home." "You're braver than I thought," Vexthor said. "To leave everything familiar, to make yourself vulnerable by wearing those compensators, to trust that we wouldn't harm you when you were deliberately weakened." "That's what trust is," Katie said simply. choosing to be vulnerable because you believe the other person will honor that vulnerability. Commander Xylith's scales rippled again. The Kryn have a saying, "A warrior's true strength is measured not by what they can destroy, but by what they choose to protect." I think humans understand that better than most species. Dr. Chen checked her data pad. The council session is resuming in 30 minutes. We should head back. The council chamber felt different when Katie entered for the second time that day. The same delegates sat in the same seats, but the atmosphere had changed. The nervous whispers had been replaced by quiet, serious conversations. Eyes that had looked at the human delegation with fear now showed something more complex. Wariness, yes, but also consideration. Katie took her seat in the observation section next to Captain Sullivan. Her hands were shaking slightly, and she pressed them against her knees to steady them. Everything they had worked for, everything Earth had hoped to achieve, would be decided in the next hour. The Nexari speaker rose, its crystalline form catching the light and scattering it in rainbow patterns across the chamber. The ancient being's voice resonated through the space like distant bells. The Council has deliberated on the matter of Earth's application for full membership. We have reviewed the evidence presented regarding human physiology and capabilities. We have listened to testimony from multiple sources, and we have considered the implications of accepting a species with such unique attributes into our community. Katie's heart pounded. She wanted to reach out and grab Sullivan's hand, but forced herself to remain still and professional. Before we proceed to the vote, the speaker continued, several representatives have requested the opportunity to address the chamber. We will hear from them now. Vexthor stood first. The Altarian's 3 eyes swept across the assembled delegates before settling on the human section. I will be honest with you all, Vexthor said. When I witnessed intern Martinez's demonstration earlier today, my first emotion was terror. I saw her jump higher than should be possible, saw her crack reinforced flooring with a casual landing, and I thought we had made a terrible mistake in allowing humans into our space. Katie's stomach sank. This was it. They were going to reject Earth's application. But Vexthor wasn't finished. However, in the hours since, I have had the opportunity to speak with several humans, to ask questions, to understand their perspective. And I have realized something important. Fear is not wisdom. Terror is not prudence. The Altarian's voice grew stronger. Yes, humans are powerful. Yes, they come from a world that would kill most of us within minutes. Yes, their physical capabilities exceed anything we've encountered. But they also chose to hide that power to make us comfortable. They developed technology specifically to weaken themselves in our presence. They have sought our friendship when they could have demanded our submission. Vexthor looked directly at Katie. I vote in favor of Earth's membership, not despite their strength, but because of what they've chosen to do with it. He sat down, and Katie felt tears prickling at her eyes. She blinked them back quickly, aware that dozens of species were watching every human reaction. Commander Xylith rose next. The Kryn warrior's posture was formal, military, but his voice carried genuine respect. The Kryn collective has built its civilization on the principle that strength must be proven in combat. We have been warriors for 10,000 years. We thought we understood what it meant to be strong. He paused. We were wrong. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Xylith waited for silence before continuing. True strength is not just the capacity to destroy. It is the wisdom to know when destruction is necessary and when it is wasteful. It is the courage to choose peace when war would be easier. It is the honor to protect those weaker than yourself rather than dominate them. The commander's yellow eyes scanned the chamber. Humans possess physical power that should make them conquerors. Their world has forged them into natural warriors. Yet they came to us as diplomats wearing devices that limit their abilities, asking for friendship rather than taking it by force. That is a kind of strength the Kryn have spent millennia learning to value. He turned toward the human delegation and performed a formal Kryn salute, one fist over his heart. The Kryn Collective votes in favor of Earth's membership. We would be honored to call such warriors our allies. Katie saw Ambassador Cole return the salute with obvious emotion in his eyes. General Webb stood and saluted as well, the gesture sharp and precise. More delegates rose to speak. Some expressed continued concerns about human capabilities. A few worried about the implications for galactic power balance, but most who spoke did so in favor of accepting Earth. They talked about the value of diversity, about learning from different perspectives, about the strength that came from unity rather than uniformity. Finally, the Nexari speaker called for order. We will now proceed to the formal vote. All those in favor of accepting Earth as a full member of the Galactic Council, please signal your approval. Lights began to appear on the voting board. Green for approval, red for rejection, yellow for abstention. Katie watched as the lights flickered to life, her breath caught in her throat. Green, green, yellow, green, green, red, green, green, green. The pattern continued across the board, more green than anything else, far more. When the last light appeared, the tally showed 38 votes in favor, 3 against, and 2 abstentions. The chamber erupted in noise. Delegates stood, talking, gesturing, some celebrating, and others clearly unhappy with the result. But it was done. Earth had been accepted. Katie felt Captain Sullivan's hand on her shoulder. "We did it," he said quietly. "You did it." "I just jumped and told the truth," Katie protested. "Sometimes that's all it takes." Ambassador Cole was immediately surrounded by other delegates, accepting congratulations and beginning the work of building the relationships that would define Earth's role in galactic politics. General Webb stood with a group of military officers, already discussing cooperative defense agreements. Dr. Morris was engaged in animated conversation with several scientific representatives, but Katie remained in her seat, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what had just happened. In the span of one day, she had gone from a nervous intern to the face of human revelation to the galaxy. Katie Martinez. She looked up to find a small delegation approaching. Vexthor led them, along with Commander Xylith and several other representatives she recognized from the earlier discussions. "We wanted to thank you personally," Vexthor said. "What you did today required great courage." "I was terrified the whole time," Katie admitted. "Courage is not the absence of fear," Xylith said. "It is acting despite fear. You knew that showing your true capabilities might make us reject your entire species. Yet you did it anyway because honesty was more important than easy acceptance." A delegate from a species called the Turians spoke up, their voice soft and melodic. "You could have continued to hide, continued to pretend to be weaker than you are. Many species would have chosen deception over truth." "Deception would have failed eventually," Katie said. "Better to be honest from the start and build real trust." Vexthor's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. "Will you walk with us to the observation deck? There is something we would like to discuss." Katie glanced at Captain Sullivan, who nodded permission. She followed the group through the corridors of Zenith Prime, passing other delegates who stopped to stare or offer congratulations. When they reached the observation deck, the gas giant dominated the view. But Vexthor pulled up a holographic display showing a star map of the galaxy. "This is the current state of galactic civilization," he explained. 43 member species spread across 12 sectors. We have peace, cooperation, trade, cultural exchange. But we also have threats, pirates, rogue factions, unexplored regions where danger might lurk. Commander Xylith pointed to several highlighted areas. "The Kryn military has been responsible for security in many sectors. We are skilled warriors, but we are few in number. We have been spread thin, protecting trade routes and colony worlds." Katie began to understand where this was going. "You want human military support. We want human partnership," Vex Thor corrected. In all things, not just military. But yes, your defensive capabilities would be valuable, especially in situations where force might prevent violence rather than cause it. A Turian delegate added, "We also want scientific exchange. Earth's harsh environment has produced unique adaptations and technologies. We could learn from each other." Cultural programs, another said. Student exchanges, artistic collaboration, shared exploration initiatives. Katie looked at the star map, at the vast expanse of space that was now open to humanity. This is overwhelming. A few hours ago, I was worried we'd be rejected. Now you're talking about partnerships across the galaxy. That's what membership means, Vex Thor said gently. You're not just joining a political organization. You're joining a community. And communities work together, support each other, grow together. Commander Xylith's scales rippled with what might have been amusement. Though I suspect many species will want to implement gravity training programs, the competitive advantages your people have developed are impressive. Katie laughed. Good luck with that. Most species would need years of conditioning just to handle 0.6 G, let alone Earth's full gravity. Then perhaps that will be part of the exchange. Human trainers helping other species develop greater resilience. In return, other species teaching humans technologies and techniques we've never considered. She thought about what that would mean. Humans spreading across the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as teachers, protectors, friends. It was everything her parents had dreamed of when they encouraged her to apply for off-world service. Katie, she turned to see Ambassador Cole approaching with Dr. Morris and several other humans. We need to head back to Earth soon to begin the integration process, Cole said. But before we go, I wanted to tell you something. What you did today will be remembered, not just by Earth, but by every species in the Council. You showed them who we really are. I just took off my gravity bands, sir. You did much more than that. You showed them our strength, yes, but more importantly, you showed them our character. You were honest when dishonesty would have been easier. You were brave when caution would have been safer. You represented the best of what humanity can be. Dr. Morris smiled. There's already talk of naming a scholarship program after you, the Martinez Fellowship for Cross-Cultural Understanding. Katie felt her face flush. That's really not necessary. It's absolutely necessary, Cole insisted. You've opened doors for every human who comes after you. The least we can do is honor that. As the sun began to set on the gas giant below, casting long shadows across the observation deck, Katie stood among aliens who were no longer strangers. They were colleagues, allies, friends, species from across the galaxy, all different, all unique, now joined by a common purpose. She touched the gravity band on her shoulder, feeling its familiar weight. This small piece of technology represented everything humanity had chosen to be. Strong enough to stand alone, but wise enough to stand together. Vex Thor approached one final time. There will be challenges ahead. Not everyone is happy with this decision. Some species will fear you, others will test you. There will be misunderstandings and conflicts to navigate. I know, Katie said, but we're used to challenges. Earth taught us how to handle difficulty. Indeed it did. The Alterian's voice chimed with warmth. Welcome to the Galactic Council, Katie Martinez. Welcome to the community of worlds. We are better for having you among us. As Katie looked out at the stars, at the vast universe that now welcomed humanity, she thought about home, about Earth's heavy skies and relentless gravity, about how every human carried that burden, transformed it into strength, and chose to offer that strength in service of something larger than themselves. They had walked into the unknown wearing chains of their own making, limiting their power to earn trust. Now those chains had become bridges, connecting Earth to worlds beyond counting. And it all started because one girl decided to show the galaxy what humanity really was, and trusted that the truth would be enough. It had been, and it always would be. As the group began to move toward the chamber, Vexthor touched Katie's arm gently. She was careful not to pull away too quickly, knowing that sudden movements could seem threatening now. "Whatever the Council decides," the Altarian said, "I want you to know that you changed my mind today. Not through fear, but through honesty. That matters more than you might think." Katie felt a surge of hope. Maybe they had done it. Maybe they had shown the galaxy that humans could be trusted despite their power. Or maybe she was being too optimistic. In 30 minutes, they would find out. Peeful. Captain Sullivan leaned over to her. That was either very brave or very stupid. "Maybe both," Katie admitted. "Probably both," he agreed, but it was also the right thing to say. Katie hoped he was right, because in 6 hours, the Council would decide if humanity's strength made them worthy allies or dangerous threats to be kept at arm's length. Everything depended on which way that vote went. Them, Commander, not to be stronger, to be safe, to be trusted, to be friends instead of threats. The Kryn warrior said nothing. His hand had moved away from his weapon. Katie realized with a start that it had been an unconscious defensive gesture, the instinct of a soldier recognizing danger. Ambassador Cole's voice rang out across the hall. "I think this demonstration has raised questions that deserve proper answers. I'm requesting an emergency session of the Galactic Council to discuss Earth's environmental conditions and their effects on human biology. No more rumors, no more guesswork, just the truth." As delegates began to file out of the damaged hall, still talking in hushed, urgent tones, Katie stood among the broken flooring and wondered if she had made things better or worse. She had shown them what humans were. Now she just had to hope they would see humans as allies worth having, not threats to be contained, holding back. "But I'll need everyone to step back, far back, and someone should probably alert station security that the structural integrity sensors are about to go off." The room fell silent. Ambassador Cole sighed but smiled slightly. "You're sure about this, Katie?" "Yes, sir. I think it's time they knew." She reached for the release mechanism on her right shoulder band and watched as understanding began to dawn on the faces around her. Some curious, some skeptical, and a few showing the first hints of concern. None of them truly understood yet, but they would. In about 30 seconds, the entire galaxy would understand exactly what it meant to be human.